Ayan na naman ang Kagat Partylist. Act Teacher Franz Castro ilang beses napahiya sa pagpapalit o i-revise ng panukalang batas sa Maharlika Investment Funds. Ilang beses na denied ang mga plano nilang ibahin ang batas sa Maharlika para di ito mag-succeed at alam naman natin ang plano nila. Ang mag-fail ang Administrasyong Marcos pero napapahiya lang sila sa ginagawa nila. Karamihan sa Congress at Senado ay pabor at may tiwala sa ating administrasyon na magtagumpay. Majority at pabor na isabatas na agad ito at magamit ng Pilipinas para maka-invest at mapalago pa nito ang ekonomiya at mapaganda sa tulong nito sa mga infrastructure man o ibang bagay na paglalaanan ng Maharlika sa ikakabuti ng bansa. Panuuri natin ang kaganapan sa Kongreso mga kasolid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. These are my individual amendments, Mr. Speaker. So number 1, on page 4, line 46, until page 5, line 2 on section 11, capitalization and funding. Delete sentence, and I quote, other GFIs and government-owned and controlled corporation may be authorized to contribute to the MIF subject to their respective investment and risk management strategies.
What does the gentleman from Albay, the sponsor of this measure, say to the proposed amendment?
We cannot accept, Your Honor.
Majority Leader?
Next, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader?
I-
What does the Majority
join
Leader
the
say? on
sponsor
proposed
in
amendment?
not accepting the amendment.
Accepted?
Not accepting.
Not accepted. Will the lady from Gabriela insist on her amendment? It is not accepted by the
Act teachers,
ACT Teachers Party List.
Mr. Speaker.
Not accepted by the sponsor. Now, will the lady from ACT Teachers Party List insist on her amendment? It is not accepted by the sponsor.
I accept, Mr. Speaker.
The parliamentary status is that we are in the period of individual amendments. There is a motion to amend from the Honorable Franz Castro. And this amendment was not accepted by the sponsor and the majority leader. So we have to place this on a vote. Voting aye is you are sustaining the vote in favor of the amendment, and voting nay means you are sustaining the vote of the non-approval by the sponsor.
Mr. Speaker, point
Yes.
of order. Mr. Speaker, I think the gentlewoman is withdrawing the motion already. So
If the lady is withdrawing her motion to
No,
amend,
I'm not, Mr. Speaker. I am not withdrawing my my amendments. The sponsors say that they cannot accept my amendments.
so if the lady is not withdrawing her amendment, we have to place this on the vote.
Mr. Speaker, may we ask for 1 minute suspension? May we again call on Franz Castro and recognize.
The Honorable Franz Castro is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, since my individual amendments on page 5, line 46 is not accepted, I will just withdraw it and place another amendments, Mr. Speaker.
The withdrawal of the Honorable Franz Castro of her amendment is duly noted. You may now proceed with your next amendment.
Kasi pagbobotohan. Okay, on page 5. On page 5, after the last paragraph of section 11, insert as last paragraph of the section, and I quote, under no circumstance shall the GOCC providing for the social security of government employees, private sector workers, and employees in other sectors and subsectors, such as but not limited to the Government Service Insurance Corporation, SSS, and Home Development Mutual Fund, be requested or required to contribute to the MIF to protect the retirement and other social security benefits of their members. No part of the funds of the said GOCC shall accrue to the MIF.
Accepted.
Majority Leader?
We join the sponsor in accepting the amendments, Mr.
Is
Speaker.
there any objection to the proposed amendment? The chair is done. The amendment is adopted. Majority Leader, the Honorable Franz Castro.
Next, Mr. Speaker, on page 4, lines 5 to 8, delete the entire paragraph on the power of the MIC to compromise, condone, and release, and to settle claims and liabilities to it.
The Honorable Sponsor, what is your comment on the proposed amendment?
We will only accept the deletion of condone.
Majority Leader,
Mr. Speaker, we join the proponent in his motion to accept only the condone.
The deletion of condone from page 4, line 5 to 8.
Specifically that part, Mr. Speaker.
what does the Honorable Franz Castro say on the response of the sponsor and the Majority Leader?
Since we don't have the same, Mr. Speaker, I still stand for my amendments.
Session suspended.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Position of the majority is to reject the amendment, Your Honor.
The parliamentary status is that we are on a period of individual amendments. The Honorable Franz Castro made a motion to amend, and it was rejected by the sponsor of the measure.
Mr. Speaker, may we seek clarification on the status because I understand that Representative Castro is willing already to accept a half amendment. May we ask?
The Honorable Castro, what is the...
No,
Kindly state your proposed amendment again.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, my amendment is on page 4, line 5 to 8. Delete the entire paragraph on power of the MIC to compromise, condone, and release, and to settle claims and liabilities to it.
The sponsor is
Not accepting.
not accepting the proposal.
So, may I appeal to the august body, Mr. Chair, to accept.
Now that the Honorable Castro is appealing the decision of the sponsor, we have to put this on a vote. A vote of aye sustains the amendment, proposed amendment. The vote of nay defeats the amendment. That is the position of the sponsor.
Mr. Speaker.
Majority
seek-
Leader.
To seek clarification just for the august body, we would like to note that the vote, as you have reiterated, the vote A, is for the vote for the amendment which was defeated by the majority. And therefore, the majority's position is to seek a nay vote for the amendments that is proposed by the Honorable Castro. Just for clarification, Mr. Speaker. So nay. Now,
Shall we?
we move to divide the House, Mr. Speaker, for voting.
There is now a motion to divide the House, and we will be voting viva voce. Again, a vote of aye sustains the amendment. A vote of nay defeats the amendment. As many as are in favor, say aye. Aye. As many as are in favor, say nay. Nay. The nays have it. The amendment is defeated. Majority Leader.
Speaker, we still recognize.
Mr.
Okay, can I continue, Mr. Speaker?
Session suspended.
I will recognize the representative from Marikina, Stella Kimbo.
The Honorable Stella Kimbo from Marikina is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, to facilitate the intent of our good sponsor to revise on page 4, line 5, I propose that again on page 4, line 5, delete the word condone.
What does the sponsor say on the
Accept.
proposed amendment?
I accept, Your Honor.
Is there any objection from the floor? Motion
Speaker,
is-
the majority also joins in accepting the amendments.
Is there any objection from the floor? Chair is done. Motion is adopted.
Thank you.
Majority Leader,
1 minute suspension, Mr. Speaker.
session suspended.
Diretso lang.
Mr. Speaker,
Session is resumed.
we again would like to recognize the representative act Teachers Party List Franz Castro.
The
On my
Honorable
third amendment, actually, Mr. Speaker, I have 9 amendments.
Franz
On my
Castro is recognized.
third amendments, Mr. Speaker, on page 5, line 27 to 29, it is still on capitalization and funding, particularly the subsequent annual contributions using privatization, public borrowings, and others. My amendment is to delete the entire subsection II, Mr. Speaker.
What does the sponsor say on the proposed amendment?
That's not what we agreed upon. No.
Mr. Speaker, the majority also joins the
Punta ka na naman.
sponsor in not accepting the amendments.
The sponsor and the majority have decided to decline the proposed amendment.
Okay.
Okay, so I still appeal, Mr. Speaker, to the August body to accept my amendments.
Will you insist on appealing the proposal? So again,
Mr. Speaker,
we have to put this on a vote. Since there is a motion to amend and it was rejected or declined by the sponsor, a vote of aye sustains the motion to amend. A vote of nay defeats the amendment. So we vote on this now.
Mr.
Your
Speaker,
Leader?
yes, we move. May I make a motion to divide the House once again? Just to clarify, for this August body, the nay vote is the stand of the majority. So move, Mr. Speaker.
So as many as are in favor of the proposed amendment, say aye. Aye. As many as are against, say nay.
Nay!
The nays have it. The amendment is defeated. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we again recognize the
The Honorable
Franz
Franz Castro is recognized.
On number 4, Mr. Speaker, on page 5, line 34, on the power of automatic review of the Secretary of Finance. After the phrase, and I quote, upon such determination, unquote, insert the phrase, and pursuant to the power of the purse of the Congress, the Secretary shall submit any proposal for the increase in annual contributions to Congress for its approval and thereafter. So the amended portion of the section will now read, and I quote, upon such determination and pursuant to the power of the purse of the Congress, the Secretary shall submit any proposal for the increase in annual contribution to Congress for its approval, and thereafter, the foregoing contributions shall accrue and be remitted to the National Treasury, unquote.
What does the sponsor say on the proposal?
Sad to say, sadly, we reject.
Mr. Speaker, the majority joins the proponent in rejecting the amendment.
The amendment is rejected both by the sponsor and by the majority leader. What
So
is the
still, again, I am appealing to the August body for the acceptance, Mr. Speaker.
the Honorable
Speaker?
Castro is appealing, so we have to vote again.
Speaker, I would like to make a motion to divide the House again, stating that the position of the majority is the nay vote for this amendment.
So let me just restate the motion to vote. A vote of aye will sustain the proposed amendment of the Honorable Castro. A vote of nay will defeat the proposed amendment. As many as are in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. As many as are against, say nay.
Nay!
The nays have it. The motion to amend is hereby defeated. Majority
Speaker, we'd
Leader.
like to recognize again the Honorable Castro.
The Honorable Franz Castro.
On my 5th amendment, Mr. Speaker, on page 6, line 1, after section 13, allowable investments, insert a new section entitled Prohibited Investments, which shall read as follow. In no case shall the MIC in whatever manner or device invest in the following. Letter A, activities and investments related to and entities with record of commission of human rights violation, including but not limited to indigenous peoples, farmers, fisherfolk, and labor. Letter B, activities and investments related to and corporations involved in the production of cluster munitions, nuclear arms, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and similar technologies and equipment. Letter C, activities and investment resulting in corporations with a record of serious degradation of the environment. And letter D, similar activities, investment, and corporations.
Accept.
Mr. Speaker, we join the proponent in accepting the amendments.
The amendment was accepted by both the sponsor and the majority leader. Is there an objection on the floor? Here is none. Motion is approved.
Number 6, Mr. Speaker, may I continue? Number
Yes.
6, Mr. Speaker, on page 14, lines 13 to 17, delete the entire section 34 and please insert the following provision. Distribution of the net profits of the Maharlika Investment Fund Corporation. At least 30% instead of 20% of the net profits of MIC shall be directly distributed in the form of poverty and subsistence subsidies to families falling below the poverty threshold as determined by the Philippine Statistics Authority, beginning with the 18.1% of the population or 19.91 million Filipinos living below the poverty threshold
Hindi na pwede.
of about 12,030 pesos per month
There's only one.
for a family of 5 per 2021 Family Income and Expenditures Survey of the PSA, provided that the remainder of the net profits shall be remitted to the national government to be earmarked for social welfare programs and projects excluding infrastructure projects.
What does the sponsor say on the proposed amendment?
If only the sponsor can change 30 to 20, we will accept the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, we join the proponent in his proposal, if only.
The reason being, Your Honor, is that if we make it 30, nothing will be left of the fund. So wala na akong palalaguin, wala na akong ibibigay na ayuda. So in other words, Your Honor, there is some financial limitations to really just emaciating the MIF to a point wherein it can no longer perform the objectives that the proponent wishes. So if my esteemed
So, Mr. Speaker, if the proponents would accept the middle ground that I will propose, can we have it 25%?
Session is suspended.
Your Honor, we accept. 25.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the majority also joins the proposal in accepting the compromise agreement.
So
Okay,
The-
next
the
amendment.
compromise is 25%,
That's correct, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
accepted by the sponsor and the majority leader. So is there an objection on the floor? Here is none. Motion is adopted. The Honorable Franz Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On page 15, after line 43, insert a new section entitled Right to and Freedom of Information of the Public, which shall read as follows, and I quote, "All documents of the MIF and the MIC shall be open, available, accessible to the public, including but not limited to, letter A, all investments thereof, whether planned and under negotiation by the MIC and on the portfolio of the MIF. Letter B, Sal-N, of the members of the officials of the Board of Directors, Risk Management Unit, and Advisory Board. Letter C, sal N of those appointed and designated and said members and officials. Letter D, audit documents from internal auditor, external auditor, and the COA, and similar documents and information.
Your Honor, although these are fully covered and enumerated or embodied in the existing bill, for purposes of clarity, Your Honor, but just for the enlightenment of this body, it is already in Section 29, where it provides for full disclosure and even special audit. And of course, the fiduciary duties of the officers of the MIF, as well as, of course, their coverage by EO2, which covers freedom of information. But in the spirit of Christmas, we accept.
Mr. Speaker, the majority accepts the proposal.
There is a motion to amend, and it was accepted, the sponsor and the majority leader. Is there any objection from the body? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Ay, pakabruha pala.
The Honorable Castro.
Number 8 amendments, Mr. Speaker, on page 15, lines 21 to 25, on section 40, disposal of assets. Delete the clause, and I quote, notwithstanding any law, rules, regulations, or other issuance to the contrary, and I quote, and unquote, and the word not after the word shall. The amended first sentence of the section will thus read as follows. The disposal by the MIC pursuant to its mandate and functions of shares, securities, and other interests and investment shall be covered by existing laws and regulations on disposals of government assets.
What does the sponsor say?
We cannot accept, Your Honor.
The amendment is not accepted. Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, the majority also does not accept the amendment.
I appeal to the august body, Mr. Chair, to accept my amendments.
There is a motion to amend. It was declined. Now the Honorable Castro is appealing, so we have to place this on a vote. May we have a formal motion, Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, we again would like to divide the House and again explain that the nay vote is the position of the majority.
So to restate the motion, there is a motion to divide the House. A vote of yes or aye will sustain the amendment of the Honorable Castro. The vote of nay or no will defeat the proposed amendment. As many as are in favor, say aye. Aye. As many as are against, say nay.
Nay!
The nays have it. The amendment is defeated.
And my last amendments, Mr. Speaker, on page 16, lines 21 to 23, let the penalties be increased, amending the provision starting from line 21 to read as follows. And I quote, shall be punished by life imprisonment with perpetual absolute disqualification from holding any public office or by fine of not less than 1 million, but not more than 10 million pesos or both, at the discretion of the court. And let the new paragraph be inserted, any prosecution under this section shall be without prejudice to the filing of cases under Republic Act 7080 or the Plunder Law, Republic Act 3019 or the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, Republic Act 386 or the Revised Penal Code, and other laws applicable to plunder and acquisition of ill-gotten wealth and similar acts and omissions. I quote.
What does the sponsor say on the proposed amendment?
We have studied this proposal very studiously, and the principle of proportionality compels us to not accept, Your Honor.
Mr. Speaker, the majority also does not agree and reject the proposed amendment.
And again,
Honorable
Mr.
Castro.
Speaker, I appeal to the august body to accept my amendments.
Mr.
So
Speaker,
again, we have a situation wherein the amendment was declined and the Honorable Castro is appealing her amendment. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, let me make a motion again to divide the House on this measure. And again, the position of the majority is a nay vote.
So the motion is to divide the House, and a vote of yes or aye will sustain the motion to amend, and nay or no vote will defeat the proposed amendment. As many as are in favor, say aye. As many as are against, say nay.
Nay!
The nays have it. The amendment is defeated.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's all, ma'am.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we'd like to call the Gabriela Party List, Honorable Arlene Brosas.
The Honorable Arlene Brosas is recognized for her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I only have one amendment. No, it is for the removal of exemption. It is on the removal of exemption from the GOCC Governance Act of 2011. On page 12, section 29, delete lines 31 to 38 so as to remove the exemption of the Maharlika Investment Corporation from the GOCC Governance Act of 2011. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, we cannot accept because Section 29 has been well worded and well articulated to ensure that interests of the public as well as the government are well protected. And in fact, the exemptions that are being sought here are only with respect to certain or only with respect to 4 sections. 15, 19, 25, and 26, Your Honor. So, we do not accept.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the majority also does not agree and reject the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, since this is really for the protection ng ating mga kababayan dahil nga ginawa ang GOCC ng 2011 para dito, Mr. Speaker, I would like to appeal to this august body na sana itanggapin yung amendment na ito, Mr. Speaker.
So there was a motion to amend, and it was rejected by the sponsor as well as in the Majority Leader. So the motion is being appealed. We have to
Mr.
vote
Speaker?
on this. Majority Leader.
May I make a motion to divide the House once again, and the position of the majority is the nay vote.
So to vote aye is to sustain the motion to amend, and to vote nay is defeats. It would defeat the motion. So as many as are in favor, say aye. Aye. As many as are against, say nay.
Nay!
The nays have it. The motion to amend is defeated.
Mr. Speaker, would like to recognize from the 2nd District of Marikina, Honorable Stella Luz Kimbo.
The Honorable lady from Marikina is recognized for her individual amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Section 11, page 5, line 29, under III, delete public and after borrowings, insert by the MIF.
Accepted.
Mr. Speaker, we also accept the amendment.
There was a motion to amend by the Honorable Stella Kimbo, accepted by the proponent, accepted by the Majority Leader. Is there any objection from the plenary or from the body? The chair hears none. Motion is adopted. The Honorable Kimbo.
Mr. Speaker, in Section 19, page 9, line 43, insert letter Q to constitute an audit committee which shall recommend to the board and to shareholders during the annual shareholders meeting the engagement of an external auditor and oversee the internal and external audits mandated under this act, and renumber the succeeding subsection accordingly.
We accept, Your Honor.
The majority also, Mr. Speaker, accepts the proposal.
There is a motion and accepted by the sponsor and the Majority Leader. Is there any objection on the floor? Chair hears none. Motion is approved. The Honorable Kimbo.
Under Article 10, insert a new Section 44. Section 44, compliance with Santiago Principles. The audits required under this article shall include an assessment of the implementation of the Santiago Principles and recommendations to improve compliance with such principles.
The
We
sponsor?
accept, Your Honor.
We accept also, the majority accepts also the amendments, Mr. Speaker.
The motion to amend is accepted. Is there any objection from the body? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
And finally, in the same section, same page, number 21, renumber the sections accordingly.
The honorable sponsor?
Accept. Okay na. Gawin. Accept.
Accept.
Mr. Speaker, the majority likewise accepts the amendment.
Nahanap ko pa.
The motion or the amendment was accepted. Is there any objection from the plenary? Chair is done. Motion is approved. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there be no other proposed individual amendments. We propose to close the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? Chair is done. The period of amendments is hereby terminated. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve in second reading House Bill 6608 as amended.
There is a motion to approve House Bill 6608 as amended on second reading. As many as are in favor, say aye. Aye. As many as are against, say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 6608 is hereby approved on second reading as amended. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we include additional co-authors to House Bill number 6687 as contained in the list to be submitted by the Committee on Rules.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, we adopted House Resolution number 647, commending and congratulating Ms. Heidelin F. Diaz for winning 3 gold medals in the 55-kilogram women's weightlifting event during the 2022 weightlifting championships held at the Gran Carpa Americas Corferias in Bogota, Colombia. I move for the consolidation of a similar measure, namely House Resolution number 652 with House Resolution number 647.
Is there any objection on the motion? The chair is done. Motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up additional reference of business and instruct the Secretary General to read the title of the reference. Sorry.
Title be directed to read the message from the President.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. I move that we ask the Secretary General to read the message from the President.
The Secretary General is directed to read the additional reference of business.
Additional reference of business. Messages from the President. Malacanang Palace, Manila, 14 December 2022. Speaker Ferdinand Martin G. Romualdez, Speaker of the House, House of Representatives, Batasan Hills, Quezon City. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Article 6, Section 26(2) of the 1987 Constitution, I hereby certify to the necessity of the immediate enactment of House Bill number 6687 entitled An Act Instituting a National Citizen Service Training Program in all public and private tertiary education institutions, repealing for the purpose Republic Act number 9163, otherwise known as the National Service Training Program Act, and appropriating funds therefore, in order to address the need to enhance the capacity of our citizens to mobilize and perform their constitutional duty to render personal, military, or civil service to the state in times of calamities and disasters, national or local emergencies, rebellion, invasion, or war. This shall be made possible by the establishment of a unified, comprehensive, and holistic national citizen service training and mobilization system. Best regards. Very truly yours, signed, President Ferdinand Bongbong Romualdez Marcos Jr. Copy furnished, Senator Juan Miguel F. Subiri, Senate President, the Philippine Senate, Pasay City. Secretary Mark Leandro L. Mendoza, Presidential Legislative Advisor and Head, Presidential Legislative Liaison Office, Second Floor, New Executive Building, Malacanang, Manila.
To the Committee on Rules.
Malacanang Palace, Manila, 14 December 2022. Speaker Ferdinand Martin G. Romualdez, Speaker of the House, House of Representatives, Batasan Hills, Quezon City. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Article 6, Section 26(2) of the 1987 Constitution, I hereby certify to the necessity of the immediate enactment of House Bill number 6608, entitled, An Act Establishing the Maharlika Investment Fund, providing for the management, investment, and use of proceeds of the fund, and appropriating funds therefore, in order to establish a sustainable national investment fund as a strategic mechanism for strengthening the investment activities of top-performing government financial institutions and thus pump prime economic growth and social development. Best regards, very truly yours, signed President Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr. Copy furnished, Senator Juan Miguel F. Zubiri, Senate President, the Philippine Senate, Pasay City. Secretary Mark Leandro L. Mendoza, Presidential Legislative Advisor and Head, Presidential Legislative Liaison Office, Second Floor, New Executive Building, Malacanang, Manila.
To the Committee on Rules.
With 279 members voting in the affirmative, 6 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, House Bill number 6608 is hereby approved on third reading.
Mr. Speaker,
please go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, may we recognize Representative Gabriel Bordado Jr. of the 3rd District of Camarines Sur to explain his vote.
Congressman Bordado is hereby recognized. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for a country struggling to recover a robust economy such as the Philippines, the creation of our own sovereign wealth fund merits thorough consideration. After all, we're still reeling from the ill effects of COVID-19 pandemic, and generating additional proceeds that could fortify our efforts in nation building is a welcome idea. Through a sovereign wealth fund, we might be better protected against ongoing and future economic crises and uncertainties. This would allow us to secure a stable, sustainable, and thriving economy for present and future Filipino generations. However, Mr. Speaker, it is for these same reasons that we should be very careful in considering its immediate creation. According to the Bureau of Treasury, the Philippines' national outstanding debt stood at 13.641 trillion pesos as of October 2022. Inflation also hit a 14-year high of 8% as of November 2022. The Philippine Statistics Authority found that 19.99 million Filipinos, or 18.1% of the population, are living below the poverty threshold in 2021. This number could have worsened in 2022 as prices of commodities continue to skyrocket. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, we still have a huge trade deficit. If we are to look at the current state of the Philippine economy, then we could surmise that none of these factors and numbers translate to wealth and surplus. Therefore, by its very definition, we do not meet the fundamental requirement in establishing a strong, sovereign wealth fund. Excess revenues, Mr. Speaker. But considering our current economic problems, we cannot afford to take our sparse resources and gamble on the hope that the Maharlika Investment Fund would be profitable and provide immediate favorable results. It is not just the nation's money we are risking, Mr. Speaker, if we rush into the establishment of our own sovereign wealth fund, but the well-being of the Filipinos as well. Therefore, I vote no to the creation of the Maharlika Investment Fund. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Congressman Bordado. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we recognize next Arlene Brosas of Gabriela Partylist to explain her vote.
Mr. Speaker, this representation votes no to House Bill 6608 or the Maharlika Investment Fund despite the modifications made during the period of amendments. Creating a sovereign wealth fund that is purely based on existing financial resources of GFIs rather than on surpluses amid widening fiscal deficit, record high national debt, and sham economic recovery dangerously puts Filipinos' money on the track to a disaster. Pinaspas ang deliberasyon at pag-aproba nitong Maharlika bago ang Pasko, subalit patuloy na isinasantabi ang mga panukala para sa direktang ayuda sa mamamayan, dagdag sahod para sa mga manggagawa at subsidyo para sa ating mga magsasakang hinagupit ng taas presyo at kalamidad. Isusugal ang pondo ng bayan para sa ganansya ng iilan lamang. Isasangkalan at ibubuslo ang rekurso ng Land Bank at Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas sa Maharlika sa pangakong makakalikom ng kita. Subalit higit na makikinabang dito ang mga miyembro ng board at pribadong negosyo. Wala tayong ipinagmamalaki sa panukalang Maharlika Fund na ito, which once approved would be the smallest and least promising in the world. Worse, this is a poorly and hastily designed sovereign wealth fund that has all the indications of opening pathways to corruption and unscrupulous use of public funds. As this proposal institutes various regulatory exemptions to the Maharlika Investment Corporation. If we really need additional resources to fund social welfare programs, we need to run after big tax evaders. We need to tax the super rich, those Filipino billionaires listed in the Forbes magazine. Through our proposed wealth tax, we need to impose windfall tax on the multi-million profits of all companies. Hindi iyong gagawa tayo ng pakulo na Maharlika na vulnerable sa korupsyon at paglustay ng pondo ng bayan. For these reasons, Gabriela Women's Party resoundingly votes no to the Maharlika Investment Fund. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we recognize next Representative Franz Castro of ACT Teachers Party List to explain her vote.
Kong Franz is hereby recognized, Kong Castro.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Mariin na nirerehistro ng kinatawang ito ang botong no sa House Bill 6608 o ang Maharlika Investment Fund Bill. Maraming red flags ang ipinasang panukalang batas, mabilis na niratsyada ang pagpasa ng Maharlika Investment Fund Bill. Sa katunayan, inaprubahan na sa Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries ang Maharlika Wealth Fund Bill bago pa man magsagawa ng briefing with the stakeholders. Take note, briefing lang at hindi consultation. Kung di pa nagkaroon ng malakas na pagtutol ang taong bayan laban sa panukalang batas, ay hindi pa ibubukas ang pagdinig ng panukalang batas na ito sa publiko. Dahil sa inani nitong backlash mula sa publiko, lalo na ang mga manggagawa, pensioners, sinubukang pabanguhin ang panukalang batas. Nagkaroon ng 6 na bersyon ng substitute bill ang panukalang batas, December 1, December 3, December 5, December 11, December 12, at ang pinakahuli, ngayong araw na ito. Kahit nga kaming mga kongresista ay nagtatanungan na kung ano na ba ang bersyon ang tinatalakay ng mga committee. Ngunit sa kabila ng napakaraming mga bersyon at ilang mga ginawang amyenda sa Maharlika Investment Fund Bill, nananatiling punong-puno ito ng mga kontrobersyal na mga probisyon. Una, sa capitalization ng Maharlika Investment Fund, nilalaan ito ng at least 105 billion. Kukunin ang pondo mula sa pondo ng Land Bank, 50 billion, Development Bank of the Philippines, 25 billion, at dividends ng Bangko Sentral na tinatayang 30 to 35 billion. Hindi lang ito nilalagay sa peligro ang dividendo ng BSP na para sana maitaas ang kapital nito mula sa 50 billion patungong 200 billion pesos as mandated by Republic Act 11211 at magbubunga pa ito ng conflict of interest. Supposedly, ang BSP ay magre-regularisa sa mga bangko at financial intermediaries. Pero ang mga GFIs tulad ng Land Bank of the Philippines ay kabilang sa board members ng MIFC. Dagdag pa rito ay ang mismong dividendo ng BSP ay at stake sa MIFC. Kung sakaling malugi ito, paano masasabing walang conflict of interest sa sitwasyong ito? Dagdag pa rito ang mandato ng Land Bank at Development Bank of the Philippines ay para tulungan ang mga magsasaka at ang mga MSMEs, hindi ang mga malalaki at dayuhang mga kumpanya. Hindi rin ito tinatanggal ang SSS at GSIS at maaari ring mag-invest sa seed money ng Maharlika Investment Fund. Nakalagay sa panukalang batas, other GFIs and GOCCs may be authorized to contribute to MIF. Narinig na natin ang board ng SSS at GSIS na willing silang isugal ang 125 billion at 50 billion. Hindi malayong gawin pa rin nila ito matapos maipasa ang panukalang batas na ito. Dagdag pa rito, pwedeng maging risk din ang hinuulugang kontribusyon ng iba pa. Sa kasalukuyang bersyon, tinawag na investment fund ang Maharlika Wealth Fund dahil wala tayong wealth at in the first place. Wala tayong surplus. Sa katunayan, ang may probisyon pang napanukalang batas ay pwedeng gamitin ang royalties, kita ng pagbebenta ng government assets at public borrowings. Sabi ng GSIS at SSS, dapat turuan ng financial literacy ang mga Filipino para daw wag iasa sa GSIS at SSS. Pangalawa, walang independent board sa board of directors. Ang sinasabing 4 na independent board ay pipiliin ng advisory body. Sino ba ang bumubuo ng advisory body? Ito ay mga appointees ng Pangulo. Pangatlo, ang napakaraming exemptions ng MIFC, exempted sa Salary Standardization Law, National and Local Taxes, Procurement, Existing Laws, GOCCs. Paano mapapanatag ang taong bayan kung i-exempt ang MIFC sa mga batas para sa good governance? Dagdag pa rito, buti pa ang Maharlika Investment Fund Corporation, exempted sa buwis pero ang mahihirap, pasan-pasan ang nagsisilakihang buwis. Ang sigaw ng taong bayan, sahod itaas, presyo ibaba, hindi Maharlika Investment Fund.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we recognize next Representative Raul Manuel of Kabataan Party List to explain his vote.
Congressman Manuel is recognized.
Salamat, Mr. Speaker. Bumuboto ang representasyon ng mga kabataan ng no sa panukalang itatag ang Maharlika Investment Fund. Ito ay dahil sa paniniwala nating na hindi dapat priority ang pagtatatag na isang sovereign investment fund gamit ang pondo ng bayan kung sa gitna ng krisis pangkabuhayan na hindi pa lubos na natutugunan ng pambansang gobyerno, ay mas nararapat na maglaan tayo ng pondo direkta sa mga patakarang magtitiyak ng pangangailangan ng mamamayan. Batay na rin sa basic na mga financial literacy concepts kapag ang isang pamilya ay lubog pa sa utang, mas mabuti wag na muna sumugal. Hindi lapat sa basic economics at actual experiences ang plano sa pagtatag ng pondo na ito. Nagsalita ang mga ekonomista at ang kanilang mga organisasyon laban sa esensya nitong investment fund na tinatalakay natin. Kahit na dumaan pa ito sa mga amyenda dahil may mga issue pa rin kaugnay ng pagkakabuo ng konsepto nito. Batay sa kasaysayan ng matatagumpay na sovereign investment fund sa ibang bansa, sourced ang kanilang pondo mula sa government surplus at kita mula sa exports. Sa atin, ang nais nating gawin ay isalin ang pera mula sa mga government financial institutions sa ilalim ng mandato dahil sa panukalang batas na ito, na maglaan sila ng pera papunta sa Maharlika Investment Fund. Iniikutan ang nasa charter ng Land Bank, Development Bank of the Philippines, at Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas that investable funds are supposed to be invested depending on the mandate of the financial institution. Nagkukulumpon lang tayo ng pera na dapat ay may ibang paglalaanan. Funds can be placed in programs like major infrastructure projects vulnerable to corruption. Moreover, the fund is also vulnerable to the interests of big private investors who can jump into the fund. Ayaw nating magkaroon ng Money Heist Philippines sa forma ng Maharlika Investment Fund. Hindi mawawala sa ating mga kababayan ang mga tanong, lalo na at sila ang pumapasa ng bigat na economic crisis. Kaya para tiyakin ang pangmatagalang kaunlaran at kinabukasan ng kabataan, hindi sa kaduda-dudang investments at sa Maharlika Investment Fund, umaasa ang kabataan. Dapat magpatupad tayo ng patakaran para isulong ang tunay na reforma sa lupa tungo sa pambansang industrialisasyon upang makatayo sa sariling paa ang ating ekonomiya at makapaglikha tayo ng nakabubuhay na trabaho dito sa bansa para sa mga kabataan. Maraming mga nakahaing panukalang batas para sa pro-people development, pro-people budgeting, and economic relief. Ang mga ito ang mainam na unang tugunan ng pamahalaan. Konkretong programa ang kailangan, hindi ang pagsugal sa kaba ng bayan. Muli, bumoboto ng no ang Kabataan Partylist sa Maharlika Investment Fund Bill. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Congressman Manuel. Your explanation is duly noted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, Deputy Speaker Ralph Recto would like to manifest that his written explanation of his yes vote to the Maharlika bill be inserted into our records.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to note the same and to record it as such. Mr. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we immediately transmit to the Senate the House bills that we have just approved on third reading.
We are in objection. The chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Good news at napasa na ang panukalang Maharlika Investment Fund sa Congress. Majority ng bumoto ay gusto ng pagbabago at may tiwala sa administrasyon ni PBBM. Ang bumoto ng no ay sadyang no lang lagi sila. Pagdating sa ikakabuti ng bansa o ni PBBM ay tutol sila. Palibhasa ayaw nila magtagumpay at sariling kapakanan lang ang gusto nila. Lahat ng balak ni PBBM ay natutupad na at kailangan lang ng suporta, hindi batikos lagi ng mali ang napupuna tulad ng makakaliwang grupo. Sana maging maganda ang pasok ng administrasyon ni PBBM at Sara Duterte ngayong 2023. Laban nating lahat ito para maiangat ang Pilipinas muli sa buong mundo. Maraming salamat guys sa pagsuporta mga ka-solid and God bless all.